On today's video, we're going to talk about a handful of tools that I like to have handy out in the boat while I'm out fishing. Hey there, outdoor YouTubers. Well, like I said earlier, today's video is about just going over this handful of tools that I like to keep handy in my boat while I'm out fishing. Now, the tools I'm talking about aren't for an emergency mechanical repair. The tools I'm talking about are for helping you to get the hooks out of fish or for helping you set up your rigs on your fishing poles. The first tool up is the hook out or the de-hooker, right? I think most of you guys have seen these before. These plier-like tools are just excellent for getting the hooks out of a fish's mouth. You got a little distance here between your hand and where the hook's going to be. You've got a lot of really good leverage in the palm of your hand right here that kind of transfers down into these small little jaws. One of these is just a must-have out in the fishing boat. I probably use this every time I'm out fishing. Now, the next thing that's handy to have is a smaller pair of needle nose pliers. And it's kind of for the same reason that you have the hook out or the de-hooker. It's for getting the hooks out of a fish's mouth. But if you're dealing with a little bit smaller fish, bluegill or maybe trout, perch, or any other kind of fish that may have kind of a small mouth, where maybe it's just a little bit too much to get this hook out down into the fish's mouth, these little needle nose pliers work pretty darn good for that. And oftentimes they'll come with a little cutter in the back of the jaws, where maybe you can cut some fishing line with it too if you need. On those very same lines, I do like to have a set of forceps. These are pretty much the same deal. I'm generally using these for getting the hook out of a fish's mouth. Now, these are even smaller again for even smaller fish, or if the hook is down the fish's throat pretty far. These forceps, right? They got this long neck to them, so you can get pretty far down there and dig that hook out. The only problem with these forceps, and that's why I do like to have this smaller pair of needle nose also, is sometimes because of the length, you don't have a lot of strength. You know, when you get down there, like you pinch down on the hook, sometimes that hook can slip out of the jaws of these forceps because they really don't have quite the holding strength that these needle nose pliers do. So depending on the job, that kind of dictates which device I'm going to use to get those hooks out of a fish's mouth. The next tool I like to have handy is a multi-tool. And there's a lot of different versions of this. This one happens to be a Gerber MultiTool. Of course, you got the pliers. It can be used for getting the hook out of a fish's mouth too. You've got the cutters back down in the jaws there. And you've also got kind of like some channel lock or plier grips right here too. So if you had to grab a nut or something, you could with these. And then of course, multi-tools have all the other stuff. The screwdrivers, the bottle openers, the saw blades, the cutting blades, all that stuff is on here. So it's real handy to have this accessible in the boat. You never know what you might need from your multi-tool. Next up, just one of these little sets of like fingernail clippers. These are great for clipping your fluorocarbon or your monofilament line. Maybe they're not so good for braid, but it's handy to have these around, especially if you use any kind of mono or fluorocarbon. Attention fishermen, don't forget to stop by Camaros Crawlers for all your live bait needs. Ronnie Camaro still has his bait shop down in the basement of his parents' house where he lives. And Ronnie still has the freshest minnows, crawlers, and leeches. And again this summer, Camaros Crawlers is going to be carrying bloated wood ticks. These are those wood ticks that are filled to the max with fish attracting blood. When a fish bites into these wood ticks, the liquid center explodes in the fish's mouth and makes that fish hold on that much longer. Also, if you need a Michigan fishing license, be sure to stop by Camaros Crawlers, and Ronnie or Ronnie's pro staff or mom will direct you to a store that sells fishing licenses. So if you're looking for live bait, remember, Camaros Crawlers sells live bait. Next one up is the jaw spreader. If you do any kind of pike or muskie fishing, it's really handy to have one of these jaw spreaders. All right, now if you've never seen one before, it's just kind of a sprung tool that when you open it up like this, it kind of springs open, and it's designed to stick down into the mouth of a fish. You take the pressure off it, and it'll slowly open up the fish's mouth, and you can get in there and do your dental work. I know a lot of times you'll have a small pike, you'll reel it in, and it might come into the boat and you grab it and it's got its mouth open, but as soon as you like stick the pair of pliers down there to get that treble hook out of the fish's mouth, oftentimes those pike just, they just clamp right up. And now you can't see, and it gets really difficult to get that hook out of the fish's mouth. So you stick this jaw spreader in there, whoop, jaws open up nice, and you can do your dental work. In fact, for me, next to the de-hooker or hook out, I bet I'm using this jaw spreader the second most often when I'm out fishing. Another handy tool to have is a small file or hook sharpener. Sharp hooks are very important. They're going to help you catch a lot more fish than if you have dull hooks. There's no doubt about that. And even if you head out onto the water with all sharp hooks, it doesn't mean those hooks stay sharp. Maybe you're running your lures across rocks, maybe you get a snag and you notice, hey, these treble hooks aren't quite sticky sharp, aren't quite needle sharp like I'd like them to be. Grab your little file or hook sharpener, touch them up a little bit, and you're back in business. Then this last tool that I like to have handy out on the boat is a pair of side cutters. And a good functioning pair of side cutters do a couple things for you. One, if your side cutters are functioning correctly and they're not beat up too bad, they really do cut braid pretty good. And then the second function that these are handy for is if you absolutely need to just cut a hook out of a fish. Sometimes you're just better off cutting that hook with a pair of side cutters as opposed to ripping that hook out of the fish's mouth or the side of its face. And then another thing these side cutters are handy for, if you happen to get a hook in any part of your body, sometimes it would be better off just to cut that hook and then go to the doctor or go to some better place to get the rest of the hook out of you, instead of like walking around with a big rapala hanging off your arm or from your nose. Might just be better off cutting it right out and head to the emergency room and have a professional get it out the right way. So guys, there's a little overview of the tools that I like to keep handy in the boat while I'm out fishing. These are all kind of stored in a little tray that I have mounted in the boat, kind of right where I sit. And it really works out good because, you know, the plan is to be catching fish, right? So the plan has also got to be to get the hook out of the fish's mouth and some of these other little scenarios that arise too. And also guys, if you want to check out a lot more useful fishing information, or you just want to check out some of the fishing adventures that my crew and I go on, be sure to give the entire channel a visit. And also remember to hunt, fish, laugh, repeat. Thanks for watching, and God bless.